my consistency. I wasn't the fastest rider, but I could consistently hit lap after lap after lap after lap. Yeah. And that was my greatest advantage. And without falling off too, because I wasn't allowed to fall off. Yeah. So I had to ride within those parameters and just go fucking hard. Yeah. And so I that really made me as well in regards to my tenacity and intensity for life is, I'm not the best, I'm not the greatest, things like that, but I will fucking outwork you.
Personal mentor of mine and both Jared's, and someone who actually was here from the beginning. He actually pretty much came up with the name Bridge the Gap. Dave POWMan, original 30-day challenge, 365, an absolute powerhouse. How are you, bro?
Mate, good. Awesome to be here. Yeah, what a ride, hey?
Yeah, man. Yeah, what's you just come from Canberra today. Yeah, we're currently in Double Bay Library. Yep. So you've trekked it from Canberra this morning, which is not unusual for you. You like to go things hard. I know we've been to Bathurst in a day. Yeah, left at 6 in the morning, got back at 12 at night. I remember driving through Bondi at 12 o'clock in the morning, and out to Wagga. Like, fuck, dude, you just don't stop.
Yeah, man, mate, and I appreciate your hustle, dude. Like, you're getting up at, if I was getting up at 6, leaving at 6, you'll come from Central Coast. That's another hour and a half. So
yeah, man, it's all for the love of it, and it's all for a good reason, which I'm super keen to dive into today. So it's gonna be a good one. So give us a rundown of the last, I want to say 12 months, but I don't think we have enough time for you to explain that. Yeah. So let's go the last 3 months. What's been going on?
Last 3 months, yes, it's pretty funny when people say, like, you've been busy for the last couple of months. Like, man, I've been busy for the last 13 years. That's when all this started 13 years ago when I was 17. But the last 3 months, man, has been going out and speaking to community events, working together with local businesses in towns to create positive change. And what I mean by that is helping people, look after themselves better, develop a better relationship with themselves. So therefore, their behaviors, their nutrition side of things, and their contribution, or whatever, I can't even say that word, to society, is the best that it can be. So, we have a few different vehicles and programs and that we do with that. But the last 3 months, man, I've just been doing 30-day challenges with gyms, helping people look after themselves better. What I call is that they eat better, think better, do better to become better people. And also be great role models for the kids and things like that. So bit of backstory, the 30-day challenge, that was created from me seeing my parents go through the struggles of, not knowing what to eat properly, being confused, fall victim to fad diets, all this kind of stuff, living in a small town, not access to the best kind of knowledge. So, I created that program out of desperation, really, to show other people how to actually look after themselves, because I do this program around in all these towns and go to all these towns because I wish someone was doing that for my parents. And that's what the essence of behind the 30-day challenge is. So, man, the last 3 months, I've been doing challenges all around, helping people develop better relationship with themselves. I've been doing POWMan school talks. So some weeks I'm even talking 25 schools in a week, and we talked at all the schools, whether it's a school of 6. So we've been at like Binya, I think they got like 13, 14 kids, up to doing talks with 1,500 kids and their families. We did a book week for the Griffith Council. And so been going around doing schools, doing that relentlessly, working with amazing teachers that, care for the kids and really are open to learning and figuring out new and exciting ways to actually get the kids to look after themselves and develop confidence. And the biggest one, CUNY, what we've been working on is teaching kids that resilience is a skill set. Teaching kids how to overcome adversity, challenges, and all that sort of stuff, and grow from it rather than have it hold them down. So, last 3 months, man, going to schools, working with teachers, working with change makers in town. So, I call them community heroes. From real estate agents to cafe owners, people that just want to do, and help in their community. They want to make their community as best as possible. yeah, just along the way, helping people that are building things like yourselves, bridge the gap, doing cool stuff. I'm one to never shy away from, being able to help someone if I can. If I see someone that's about to make mistakes, maybe I did or whatever it is, not that I want to take their mistakes away from them because that's how we grow. But if I can sort of, give them a little power pep here and there, I would only hope that someone would do that for me down the track as well. So I don't try and hold my information or what I know back. I like to share and collaborate with as many people as I can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's going back to that hustle. I've been with you. I've been 5-6 schools a day, and man, I struggle to keep up, and I'm not even the one talking. I just got to hold a camera up and make sure it's recording. But
do a good job at it as it is.
Well, yeah, man, and I respect you so much for that. So let's dive back to the start, because you're a ball of energy. You take life by the balls, and you don't waste it. What was it like growing up for you as a kid? Have you always had this energy?
I think I've been pretty energetic. Like, when I was really young, I used to jump on the cupboards and tables. My mum tells these stories about how she used to try and catch me. I'd be jumping from table to bench in the kitchen and running amok. So I always had energy, always had enthusiasm, and that kind of attitude in regards to that. So growing up, I grew up in a town called Yenko. 552 people live there. 551 now are left, and it's a small town. My nan lived down the road. Just to go there after school. My parents worked full-time jobs. My dad actually worked two jobs. He used to pick oranges after working on weekends as well to make ends meet. And growing up there, I have two older sisters, two awesome sisters. My older sister Sonia is a graphic designer in Melbourne. She works for herself and does amazing stuff up there. And my middle sister Jenny, she works for an electrical company called Country Energy, down in Leeton, and she's got a first baby too, so she's super busy. And she's married, so yeah, they're both got partners, and they're both doing great in life.
Yeah, awesome, man. So POWMan, which we'll dive into a bit more later, but the book is based on past events from your life, and obviously you remember them vividly enough to make an epic book about it. What were probably the most prominent years for you through school, where those stories came from?
There's lots of memories that I can recall on and go that were defining times for me when I was a kid. POWMan, Unleash Your Hero, is the first book title. And, the whole POWMan essence is, I grew up idolizing Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Lee. I watched Predator movies and Gladiator and Saving Private Ryan and Forrest Gump. And my dad exposed me to all these movies as a kid. And you sort of see these movies, they all have, interesting characters in the book and in the movies. And, they teach you sort of life lessons as well. So growing up, there's certain events that now I can call back on, like, repeating kindergarten and not knowing why, being called dumb and stupid and all these sort of things. But I didn't know why, because my self-worth was like, what do you mean? I'm cool. I'm doing great. Just because I got that thing wrong didn't mean that I'm bad, whatever it is. But, once you get into school, sometimes it can be a little confusing because, you get something wrong and then all of a sudden they're saying, you're wrong, you're this and that. It's like, well, hold on a fucking second. I was having a great day, no, I just need to learn that thing. So there was lots of times where I was younger where I actually then, due to these times being called dumb, stupid, repeating and not understanding and all that kind of stuff, I then also took on that self-talk, and thought I must be dumb and stupid and all these kind of things. And so, and I sort of thought, at different times, if I'm going to be called dumb and stupid when it comes to learning, fuck yes, I'm just not going to learn. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to open myself up to it, which means it's closed off. And so, for a long time, I went through, I told myself I can't read. I listened to everyone else who said you can't read. And for me, it was like, I'm learning. But then when everyone kept saying you can't read, you need a special teacher, all this kind of stuff, I then started to go, fuck, maybe I can't read or whatever it is. But the thing is, this is like my internal dialogue should have been, and, they should have explained to me is, Dave, this is the process of learning. Yeah. And whilst you're learning, there's things you can't do. Yeah. That's why you learn and you focus on what you can do. I didn't have that explained to me as much. So I did have amazing teachers that really progressed my learning. But in those times, there was a lot of teachers as well that, call me dumb and stupid and all this kind of stuff. I was like, fuck, that doesn't help much. So now I call back on these moments in time and teach and tell these stories through the book that were true. Because when I was a kid, I also told myself, when I get big enough and old enough, I'm going to do something about it. And so with POWMan, I'm fulfilling that promise to my younger self that when I'm older, when I'm bigger, I'm going to do something about it. And so the first book is about helping out my mate, because there's a time where I froze and didn't know what to do. I was the bystander seeing my mate get bullied. I didn't know what to do, and I knew it didn't feel right. And anyone out there listening, I guarantee you, if you're listening right now, you've been in situations where you know something is going on, but you don't know what to do, and you're afraid, and you freeze, and you don't do anything about it. And there's a quote saying that, bad things, the worst things really happen when good people say or do nothing. Yeah. There's a quote around that sort of stuff. So out there for your listening, there's been lots of times we've experienced that. So the first book is about, if you see something like this going on, how do you get around it and how do you do something better next time? Because once you know better, you do better. So it's not about being perfect or anything like that. So in the book, my mate gets bullied, I freeze, don't know what to do. But what I do, instead of walking away and turning a blind eye, is I go and get help. I talk to the teachers, I talk to my parents, which I did back then, and found a way to get around it, help my mate. So I had his back, because that was that camaraderie ship sort of thing, and going at our problems together as mates and stuff is what I got brought up, as that's what mates do. So, that's what the first book is about. So with the book series, just helping kids overcome their challenges and going beyond them and learning and growing from them rather than getting stuck in them and labeling themselves based on the shit they went through. Because as kids, there's lots of stuff that we don't have control over. That's just how it is. And everyone's born in a different time, different situations, circumstances, different challenges, whatever it is. But you don't need to stay there, and you don't need to live at that level for the rest of your life. You can change, transform, rather than just transmit what's happened to you. So I want it to be that sort of change, and that's what I do now with the kids book. Because there's a lot of kids out there that don't have good role models, and I want to create POWMan as a book, as a role model as well, to inspire kids that they can go beyond their challenges and rise above and out of them, and set the pace themselves and do something great in life.
It's crazy, man, because having seen the book myself, it's all the messages and everything that's said, even though it's portrayed in a kid's book, it's for everyone. Yeah. And it's what Disney do so well. Yeah. You look at Disney movies, man, and you love them as a kid because they're bright and they're colorful and they're the princess and the whatever. But you watch them now and you're like, man, those messages are powerful.
Powerful for everyone.
So powerful. And so I guess even though this is for the kids, teaching them early on, everyone can gain, because these small messages, if we carry them throughout our whole lives, they're going to help us. So change those associations, and understanding that the bullies are struggling themselves, especially. So I think you've done super well, and it sounds like you're tapping into older people as well, because everyone needs it. Everyone needs this, and a book is the best way to show it. Just as a movie is, just as a Disney movie is, you're creating an analogy in the story to really make people understand these truths, and putting it through your own experience is powerful as well, because it's come from the heart and it's real experiences. So awesome, man. So
hey, on that, one day we might work with Disney, and we'll say it now, we'll speak it into existence. And the thing is with the book, it's a tool, it's a vehicle to create conversation between the teachers, the kids, the parents, the kids. And a lot of parents out there, when they they will actually go out of their way to help the kids more than themselves. So a lot of parents out there are holding on to the traumas and the experiences they've had. And then when their kid goes through it, they go, holy crap, I've got to help my son or my daughter. I want them to go, benefit from, not go through what I went through. And so when they start reading the book, when they start helping the kid go through what they went through, they actually start healing themselves, because they start actually developing more awareness around it, how they can, think around, change their inner story about what happened. Because a lot of times we refer back to things actually worse than what it was, and more so than what it was, and we take on more than needed. So the book helps the parents, the teachers, and the kids. Which is powerful, and that's what we created for. It's a tool, and because it's simple for kids, adults can understand it. Because a lot of things out there for adults, they're too confusing.
Are you finding the parents jumping on board with it? Like reading the book with the kids at home, or the kids like, does the book just walk around with the kid? Like,
yeah. Well, mate, I was just here downstairs, and a young kid who's got the book. They were downstairs. Kerry Podmore and Cynthia, their kid was just downstairs, and that's his favourite book. And so I got to tell him, I was like, mate, the next book's coming out next week. I'll bring one down for you. And kids, check out this. There's back where I'm from. I go out to all the country towns and that as well. And we're doing a lot of cool stuff leading to Christmas, getting books out to kids who don't get any presents on Christmas Day. For some kids, it'll be just a book and paper and pictures. That's just how it is. That's like anything. Some kids will get it, they'll throw it out. Who knows what they'll do with it? But some other kid who doesn't have anything gets one of these books. It becomes more than just paper. It transcends the meaning of that book. Sometimes that book is all they have to hold on to in regards to hope. And hope is something that's powerful with people. We need it. Every human being on this planet, everything that, is working, whatever, it needs hope in it. And so that book, and I understand the power of that book. I understand the power of role models and what they've done for me. And putting that into a book, into a message, into a character, is helping these kids phenomenally, which is something I'm very proud of. And that's a legacy thing. So for me, that's why I'm out there putting it all in there, because when I have this opportunity, and I'm not going to waste it.
It's fascinating, man. Like it's funny you say that, because like you said, people have role models, and generally that's a celebrity or an author or a character from a movie. It doesn't necessarily have to be a real person, but these people come out saying, you got me through my teenage years. You helped me come out for being gay. You helped me be okay with my body image. And until you go through that, I don't think you know what it feels like to have that deep of a role model. But seeing it more and understanding it more in depth, now I look at it and I'm like, the power that people can have by projecting their truth, being confident, just helping and teaching and contributing to others is fucking powerful. And I think the more that we understand that, the more that we become confident in just sharing our truths ourselves. And it's something that you've done super, super well. I want to dive back outside of the book down through your teenage years through high school. This is something I don't know too much about. What was high school like for you? Did the bullying continue? Did the because you had learning difficulties as well. How did you go through high school?
So high school, getting into year 7, 8, we went from a small school into a bigger school. High school, there's kids from all different types of schools. So it was actually quite exciting. 7 and 8, and I had my friends group and all that. But around about year 8 is when, my parents actually banned me from hanging out with certain people. And anyone out there listening is, when you're around certain people, you behave certain ways. And I was picking up a lot of negative, character traits from my friends, and I knew that they weren't the best for me, but, I thought that, I could improve them, I could influence them for the better and be that, every group's got the bad egg, what do you want to call it? But, I could sort of lift up the average of that group in that sense, and so... when I was in year 8, that's when I got banned from hanging out with my mates. And, we were like the popular kids and all that kind of stuff. And that was my best friend that I got banned from hanging out with. So I had to go more sort of internal at that point and surround myself with different people. And, so I was always friends with everyone, everyone. So there's new kids at school, I'd welcome into the group. If there's someone that was getting picked on, I would go and make sure they're okay, or chat to them as well. So I didn't really discriminate. I was always told to and taught to, everyone's got value to share and all that kind of stuff. So, but at that time I sort of got cut off from my friends group. And that was also when alcohol started getting involved and all that. And, my dad was very, very strict on alcohol, and, what he sort of, how he explained it is like, no true man needs alcohol to have conversation with people or have fun. That's how I was brought up. So alcohol was more for weak-minded people that needed an external source to then tap into who they are. So that's what I got brought up in regards to alcohol. And also living in a small town, I saw alcohol really affect people negatively. Low inhibition. I saw people close to me, you know, always find money for alcohol, but never money for health. Or, you know, I'll tell you quite a story. I won't mention who they are, but very close to me. You know, I know this lady who, by the age of 16 had no teeth, right? And another friend of mine actually bought her teeth for her 16th birthday. And, you know, because, you know, like the parents had no money for it, but always had money for alcohol. And so, you know, so I heard stories like this growing up, and I was like, you know, fuck alcohol. You know, I'm not going to have something come into my life and take me off track. And so, going through those years, it was actually perfect timing to separate myself from the group. And I started to work more on training, my sports, motocross as well. And, you know, my dad was, he was a very high stress person. And so I grew up in a really high stress environment in that sense. Now, it wasn't as high stress as his environment growing up, but for me, you know, it was still high stress. So a lot of my friends were, you know, partying, drinking, having fun and doing lots of stuff. For me, as I started a little bit older, for me, actually getting a job was relaxing for me. So being at work, working up to 7 days a week was my escape. So I turned to work. By the time I got into 8, 9, 10, that became my freedom, because when I wasn't working, if I wasn't working and I was having fun, I was sort of being useless. So it was actually, so for me, you know, school and work was my two escapes. And work was obviously, you know, I had every job under the sun. And so that's how I filled up my time, and that was kind of my escape, and that's how I met a lot of my role models. I got out of my household. Dad was quite stressed during my high school sort of times. I'll tell you one thing that comes down. You talk about intensity and, you know, getting out there and doing work and all that sort of stuff. So I used to race motocross, and my dad would work late every day. He didn't have his own business. He, you know, worked for Rice Guys, this big company down there, And so for motocross, that was my favorite sport, and I loved having a motorbike, and we couldn't really afford it, but my dad brought and provided me for the best he could. So I had this like stock standard bike, and I always had new bikes because I was riding quite hard. So I'd get to the racetrack. Now I'd always be late because everyone else could knock off work with their dads and knock off school early and all that. But I didn't, you know, I had to get home and get everything packed, have everything ready to drive out of the driveway, and we'd get there. So everyone else would already have time in the track and all that sort of stuff. And I'd get there and I'd fuel my bike up and just ride until it was dark. I'd be the last person on that track. And if I come off that track and if I was stuffing around with my friends, like having fun, if I was stuffing around, next minute I'd turn around, my bike would be packed up, would be going. And Dad would say, we're not here to fuck around. You know, we're here to ride. We're here to ride. And if you're going to ride, you got to do it well. So if I fell off on the track, he'd pack my bike up and take it home. If I ran out of fuel on the track, not being prepared, he'd take my bike and get home. So then for me, going to that racetrack is I would fucking get everything sorted, get on my bike and just fucking race. Like every like lap after lap after lap after lap after lap. Everyone would be pulling in, you know, it's hot, sweaty, whatever it is. I just lap after lap after lap. So my endurance on the bike, my kind of work ethic was fucking through the roof. My consistency, I wasn't the fastest rider, but I could consistently hit lap after lap after lap after lap. And that was my greatest advantage. And without falling off too, because I wasn't allowed to fall off. So I had to ride within those parameters and just go fucking hard. And so I that really made me as well in regards to my tenacity and intensity for life is, I'm not the best and the greatest, things like that, but I will fucking outwork you. Have fun keeping up. Like if you want to try and compete, you're not going to fucking win, man, because I don't stop.
What was your relationship like with your dad?
That's what was interesting.
So obviously he was hard and he was tough, and he had the association with the alcohol and the and all these
things. So he didn't drink.
So he didn't drink.
No, didn't
That's
drink
right.
Didn't smoke.
Did he have bad experiences?
He drank Coca-Cola
growing up?
Yeah, he did lots.
Yeah.
So he did his best and still doing his best to provide for us kids, give us the best life and opportunities and all that kind of stuff. So in regards to that is like, apparently he's got bipolar and all this sort of stuff. I don't believe it, in that sense. But You know, so I grew up with multiple dads and that sort of stuff. And it sort of depended on, you know, whether money tight, business, work stress, all this kind of stuff. So, you know, I've got a third book coming out for POWMan, and actually talks about how to become a warrior rather than a warrior. So how to overcome your worries and things like that. Because, you know, I saw my dad worry a lot about things you can't control. And so for me, that's what POW stands for, passion over worry. Choosing a life of passion rather than worrying about, is this the right thing, you know, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Like, I'd rather go all out in that than fucking go all out in worrying. Yeah. So, relationship with dad, like phenomenal relationship growing up, really respected him, taught me a lot and all that sort of stuff. I also saw, you know, a lot of the negative effects from his relationship with his dad, right? And so, you know, I saw how that affected him. And even beyond, you know, when my pop died, a lot of things were still carried on. He was mentally still chained to a lot of the thoughts and behaviors and all that kind of stuff, self-worth and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, there is a huge thing in, you know, every son needs to go out and fend for himself. So we don't have traditions in Australia where you become a man. Yeah. You're still a fucking son. You're just 40 years old. And you're still trapped under your dad's fucking wing. So the great thing my dad did in that defining time, 17, 18 time is when I started my business, is he knew there were certain times, and he even says this, where he couldn't be that role model anymore. Yeah. That he didn't know how to do it. He didn't have it for him. But what he didn't do in those defining times is step in front of me and stop me from doing these things. So when my mentor, Mark Elliott, come into my life and taught me kettlebells, and I was spending a lot of time training with him, my dad, you know, as much as it probably hurt him inside that he wasn't that figure, he still didn't step in and try and stop me hanging out with Mark and learning kettlebells and having that role model. He sort of said, it was at a time too, he had his second mental breakdown during that period, and that's where I started my first business. Yeah. And, you know, I got a red dot on my year 12 English exam. I failed English. Even though I was doing good in all my other stuff, we had 12 teachers in year 12. Yeah. So I didn't know what we were even doing in class. It changed every single lesson. And I do need a lot more help when it comes to English. So I had no chance. Yeah. And I still gave it my best. I walked out there going, fuck, I nailed that. But I flopped it. And, you know, so... You know, I guess where I'm getting to with that is, you know, my dad, I remember him sort of saying, he never really said to me, you know, about being proud or whatever it is. And, you know, I know he is of what all us kids. He just knew there was times where he had to step aside and let me find my own way, and which he did, which is great, you know. So, you know, it was really funny because I knew you sort of asked questions about this, and for anyone out there, I was thinking about, you know, what's better or what's worse, to have a great relationship and then it go bad, or bad and then turn it good. And I believe that every day is I'm turning my relationship with my dad to be better and better and better. Yeah, that's a belief that I'm under. Absolutely. Yeah, because once you become an adult as well, as you start to go, wow, my parents were just doing the best they fucking could with what they had. Yeah. They didn't know better. They didn't have fucking YouTube. They didn't have Google. Yeah. So when you understand this more, is you stop blaming them and start to understand. And the more you can understand, the more you can start to understand and go, yeah, when my parents said they had no money at Christmas time or any day of the week, they weren't fucking joking. Yeah. They literally meant no money. Yeah. And now when you got to make your own money, you know what no money is, you know. Yeah. So every day it's getting better and better, and we just hang out in Wagga on the weekend, and he saw, it's really funny, Facebook is really bridging the gap between my dad and I, because now he's actually been able to look into and follow what I do, because when I tell him things, he doesn't quite understand them or communicate verbally, but he can look on the computer and see all the stuff and see all the people's nice comments about POWMan and good it's doing. The Win Telly, so Channel 9 News did a story on POWMan, and he got to listen to it. So I'm telling him this stuff face to face. It's like talking to deaf ears. Then he sees it on Win TV on the phone in front of him, and he's going, "Oh, that's true. That's great." You know, like,
it's so funny, man. Really, I got the same. I got a similar thing with my dad, and it's funny. It just takes different, I guess, ways of communication sometimes, and sometimes people hear things better than they see it, and vice versa.
Like when he told me about Mark Boris. You know, you talk to your dad about something, and it's only until Mark Boris says it, he goes, "Oh, that's a good idea." You know?
I'm going to Europe with Andrew Papp. He's like, "Oh yeah, cool. Like, who's that?" And I'm told him and whatever, and then he's reading the newspaper, and he's like, "Oh, does Andrew Papp know Mark Boris?" And dad's a Mark Boris fan when it's on Sydney and stuff. And then from the get-go, like, phone calls every day. So, how's Andrew Papp going? Yeah. Like, what's he up to? Like, you all going well? Yeah. And it's funny. Like, I love him, but it's just one of those things that dad has. You're just like, whatever. But, yeah, man, that's really cool. That's really cool.
So for anyone out there who's gone through things, maybe their dad isn't there for them as much, I want you to start seeing the opportunity in that he's not there. So who is there? Go seek them. Go learn from them. And if he's not there, at least he's not stopping you. And hey, if there is someone out there trying to stop you, whatever it is, that's just fuel to even go find better role models and all that sort of stuff. Don't start blaming. Don't use them as an excuse not to do something or seek better or understand things or teach yourself things. You know, if anyone's trying to stop you, use that as fuel. If anyone's not there for you, use that as fuel. And if you start to get to the real secret, is you use everything there is as fuel to get better.
Do you consider yourself someone that has a high level of self-awareness, and did you have that?
Sometimes. Sometimes, right? You know, we all. I'm reading a book at the moment called The Road to Less Dumb. Or Less Stupid. It's really, and they talk about dumb tax, the tax you pay for being dumb and doing dumb shit. It's really not learning from your mistakes. It's quite funny. But very interesting. Ever since a young kid, I don't know whether because I watched so many fucking movies on like Saving Private Ryan, Gladiator, and Predator, and Bruce Lee, and all that sort of stuff. Always had this vision beyond my circumstance and where I was. So I remember being like 4 years old and thinking, imagine if I was born in Africa. What would that be like? You know, very interesting. Yeah, and even like I remember, what was it like? Yeah, I just remember growing up and just going, like, physically knowing where I lived, but then also there's another sense of me that was like, I'm sort of destined for more. Which is crazy. And during that time of when my dad had his second mental breakdown, there was actually a few times. There was one specific time where I had this overwhelming sense that I'm here for a greater purpose. I'm here to do something different, to do something great, you know, and which is pretty wild. Like when at the time, everything was shit. Everything was breaking down. Everything was fucking busted. Like failing school, you know, work, career, like all this kind of stuff. It was like opportunities were like collapsing all around me and that sort of stuff. But there was this sense of internal feeling which would arise from this. And that's, you know, when I started my first business and started doing these things that were outside of my character. In regards to if you talk to anyone about, like, you know, who's Dave and what's he doing, I started to behave and do things outside of what totally blew people's expectation on me away. And that was like an internal thing. And I think that really was awakened from the adversity of those times. And that was like, for me, it was kind of the only way was to actually transform myself and create, you know, during those times, where, especially when my dad had his second breakdown. And mind you, when my dad had his second breakdown, he was fucking happy as Larry. You know, like obviously the first bit is manic and we had to lock him in the house and all this sort of stuff. And if my dad ever listens to this, I'm only sharing this to so other people know that not alone as well. And, you know, I believe anyone can go through a breakdown. No one's immune to it, or it's just a certain pressure and situation and like circumstances that line up for that to happen. So anyway, so dad was actually really happy, and all these communication things that he was holding back, he'd fucking say. So he'd tell my mum, I fucking love you, you're the best wife in the world. And he'd say all these amazing jokes, he'd be hilarious, he'd be picturing something coming out of the fucking sun. like it was wild. All this sort of stuff. And if I was younger, I would have believed everything he said, because it was all believable. You know, what do you call it? A Beautiful Mind by Russell Crowe. Reading the newspaper and shit. Dad would be fucking reading the newspaper and writing down numbers that all correlated from the newspaper popping out. And they all added up because he would explain it to us. He could see, because my dad's phenomenal brain, his phenomenal imagination, his phenomenal with numbers. So my dad could do product costing, so futuristic product costings for Rice Growers, this big company. He could predict things $55 million budget within $500 of future. Right? They used to try and bring teams in of the top university mathematicians to come in. And they couldn't even, they were like $5 million out. And Dad he just knew how the whole place ticked.
So we haven't even touched on, I want to dive through your business history, because you hustled hard, opened your first gym, in Kettlebells, Kettlebell World Champion. I forgot to introduce you as that. That's fucking huge. Where did it start? Let's go to the first gym you opened.
All right. So picture this: you're sitting in your last classroom that you'll ever be in school. I'm sitting there. I get my red dot on my HSC exam, and when I look down, I see that, and I actually tried to work hard on my HSC as well. When I got that red dot, I thought, "Holy shit, that's my whole uni out!" Right? Everyone's talking about uni, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I look out the door. I look beyond the door. It's kind of like everything just went quiet. All the teachers talking shit, whatever it is, talking about all this stuff. Everything just went quiet. I just literally phased out for a moment. And I saw this quote on the wall by Robert Frost saying, the roads diverged and I took the one less trodden, or whatever it is. And I remember seeing that and just going, holy shit, I've got to do something different. And around about that time too, we started doing jiu-jitsu. I had a kid at school that was telling everyone he was going to bash me at every party. So every time we go to party, you go to have fun, I always had these threats. And he had older brothers. So I was like, you always turn up to these parties, and because I didn't have my original friend circle from when I was younger, I didn't know who to trust in that sense. And some of my other friends, they weren't at all the parties. They were boarders. They lived on farms and things like that. So I'd rock up these parties and, with the threats of getting bashed and all this kind of stuff. It was around the time when UFC first come out. So I actually had a cousin who was partnered with one of Australia's top kickboxers. Who later actually committed suicide in the back of a police wagon with a gun. Wow. Crazy fucking story, right? And crazy story. Amazing guy, talented, all that sort of stuff. Just got mixed up on drugs and all that sort of stuff. But he had a kickboxing gym in Leeton. So I got into kickboxing, then got into UFC. We started a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club at school with me and my mates. We called it Country Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And we started to do that and teach ourselves martial arts and all this sort of stuff. And so that time, that's also when I met Mark Elliott, who come and trained with us at school. And he had kettlebells, but he didn't tell me what they were. He said, you got to come train with me. I'll teach you how to channel your energy and frustrations for better, and develop yourself. And so around that time, I had the red dot on the exam, saw that quote. My dad had his second mental breakdown, so then he's not working. And so, I started, and then so for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to go try these kettlebell things out. This is where I step up and become a man in that sense. And so I went to his shed. He had 3 bits of carpet, 5 kettlebells, and a deaf dog named Barney, who was a German Shepherd, who would pee on a Frisbee and then bring it back to you every bloody time for hours on end. So we're in his backyard garden shed. We had the Victor lawnmower in the corner and no electricity. It was in his shed. So he started training me with kettlebells. The first session I did, I walked out feeling better than I ever did when I walked in. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing effect. Because normally when you leave training, you're stuffed. But I was pumped. I learned, I had an amazing time. It was great. All the movements it's not about becoming a bodybuilder or a marathon runner, whatever it is. It's all about becoming the strongest, fittest version of you. And, and that's, different for everyone. And so I left feeling empowered. And so that for me was a phenomenal feeling. And so I kept calling him up. I was like, Mark, can we train again? Can we train again? Can we train again? And then I was like, Mark, can I bring my sister? So my sister was out of school and she wanted to start doing something for her health. And so, I got her to come train with me and her friend come, and I had some other friends from school that came and trained. And I just fell in love with kettlebell lifting. And then when we started training other people, I started to see the effect it had on their lives. I think my sister lost about 11 kilos or something like that, and she was phenomenal at training with kettlebells. Yeah. She was really good at them. And I saw just her confidence just flourish. She was like one of the strongest girls in Leeton. She was the first girl in Leeton to deadlift 100 kilos. And amazing story there. And I saw that I saw it within myself, that transformation. Then I saw it within my sister. Now I saw it within my friends. And that's what I fell in love with. And so I remember telling Mark, I was like, Mark, you know, you got gyms out there, but when you go to the gym, is there any Arnold Schwarzeneggers in there that are charismatic, friendly, and that? No, they're like grunt and they're not happy. No, let's create a gym. This is our place. And so Mark said, yes, okay, we'll train people, but only your friends and family and no men, only girls. Okay. Because he didn't want to train anyone who would get in fights and use their strength. Because he was like, for him, it was like this big top secret thing. Like, you will learn how to be lethal. Like, you will be strong and all this sort of stuff. So we started training girls. And then there's a guy named Paul Asher, who I'm still best mates with today. He lives in Canberra. He was one of my first male clients. Yeah. And he was recovering from heart attacks and all that. And he would train. And so we started this place. And I remember when we first started charging, because I used to just do it for free to begin with. Yeah. I remember we charged like $7 a session and $5 for students. Mm-hmm. And, you know, some days we'd get like $13.50, you know, at all these different amounts. And we used to have a little stubby holder, and that's what we used to put the money in. Yeah. And that's how it started. So I remember sitting there with my old Nokia or Samsung V flip phone Delight, shining the light on when we made $35. And I remember, and that was in 2 hours. And I remember looking down with Mark's wife, Kylie, just going, we made this. Like, how amazing. I would have done this for free. You know, we were just buzzing off it. And we had the phone lights because we had no electricity in this shit. And so that was where we first got started. I started based on exposing people to a phenomenal environment. I started to want to treat it like, how would I like to be treated? There's no places where you can go to which creates positive change. You can go to the pub, but it's all about fucking yourself up. Yeah. Where can you go where you're building yourself up and it's positive thoughts and positive associations and conversations, that sort of stuff. So I didn't have the environment, so I created the environment. Yeah. And I, you know, pieced it all together. And that's how we started that little place. We had like 140 people come to that little gym. When I became an electrician, I actually put electricity on it. I paid Mark rent, 20% of everything I made. So, you know, that little shed, for anyone out there listening, a lot of people look at all the things that are fully established now and go, oh, I can't do this. Don't fucking try and compete with them on that stance. Use what you've got, your ability, your time, your enthusiasm, and get fucking started with what you got in the backyard, their backyard, whatever it is. Your enthusiasm was going to get you fast. So that's how we started when I became an electrician. And I became an electrician because my mum, she worked at TAFE, so she helped tradies get through their TAFE. And so she really had her heart set on me becoming an electrician. So I was like, okay, Mum, well, she lined me up this interview. And I knew if I went to that interview that I'd fucking get it because I've done all these interviews and I've had all these jobs. And I knew how to get a fucking interview. Yeah. I knew how to get a job too. Yeah. I got rejected from Woolworths when I first got my first, and that's where I started working for IGA, who I still work with today. That's how the business started. Was I qualified? No. Yeah. But in regards to kettlebells, no one was qualified. Yeah. So I was trained in kettlebells before people even knew how to use them or what they were. Yeah. So I counted myself as qualified. Yeah. And then I went out and did my Cert 3s and 4s and all that kind of stuff and courses and all that. But I never relied on courses for my knowledge because it was always like, well, yeah, they're a piece of paper. But what I develop every day and read up on and learn is more depth to what I do. So anyway, that's where it started. I then got I worked at a bar, worked in a restaurant. I had my gym, which I did every night, from Monday to Thursday. And then I had my apprenticeship. So, because I got that job with Dean Stanmore Electrical, so I became an electrician apprentice. Yeah. He was very good to me, so he allowed me to actually have my business. And he would always make sure I'm home on time and things like that. And so I did those 4 things till I was 21. And so I developed all of that. My dad actually had another breakdown. He had his 3rd breakdown. And that's when I decided, I was actually working that much that my tonsils were basically touching and they were bleeding every day. I was living off antibiotics and that sort of stuff. And Dad ended up having another breakdown. He ended up losing his super. He gambled it on his stock exchange. So, you know, it was like hectic times and all that sort of stuff. And for me, I was like, all right, I've got to go bigger. I've got to go better. I've got to create something out of this, you know. So then my sister moved home. We then created a gym called Strength to Strength. So it doesn't matter where you come from. It's about, you know, building on who you are. And next minute, we get a knock on the door. This is this little studio. It's $80 a week rent, right? $80 a week. It's still vacant to this day. So we're in this little tiny studio, and we get this knock on this door. My dad hides behind the bloody wall, and I go over there and answer it, and this lady comes in, and I know who she is. She's very well respected in my town. Her name's Natalie Seeley, right? But me, I'm this young kid, don't really know how to verbally communicate properly. I'm a little bit awkward or whatever it is. She comes in, she goes, "Are you Dave?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Dave Tabain, the kettlebell guy." I was like, "Yeah, that's me." She goes, "Well, I want to be trained by you." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not ready." And I was also very unconfident too, because like socially, she was like a really well-known person. And I was really unconfident. I was like, "Oh, well, no, I'm not ready." And she pointed over to this kettlebell. She goes, "Is that a kettlebell over there?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, move your shit. We're going to train." I was like, "Yes, miss." I was like, "Okay." I couldn't say no to her. And Natalie's a phenomenal lady. Has played a massive part in my life. And she and her friends, Melissa, Chris and Teresa, become my first clients. We trained every Thursday. And that actually paid my rent in that little place whilst I was renovating. And anyone out there, you're going to have people come into your life at times when you're not ready. But those people walk in just the right time, and it's kind of like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. All these sort of things, and Natalie is definitely one of those people, just like Mark was. And just like one of my best mates, Brad Booth, was. He was another guy that came in when I was at school getting kicked out of school, which we didn't talk about. He's another one who's actually my best friend now. So I've got some cool stories about that too. We can talk about later. But so started this little shop. Long story short, I then doubled that shop, right? Dad had another breakdown. I took on the world titles. In that time as well, I quit my job as an apprentice. I quit all jobs. I actually made a promise to never work for someone again. I'd always work with people. And that was at a time where I won an American Championship, come straight back to work. I was sick all the time. When I won that American Championship, my tonsils were bleeding. I was coughing up blood. I was absolutely fucking wrecked. And that's where the POW come into, because what I did is I'd do the POW out the back of warming up before people go and compete to psych everyone else out as a joke. And it's to scare shit out of everyone, because here I am. Internally, I was feeling like fucking death, but I wasn't going to show that. And I wasn't also going to compete like I was feeling, because if I competed like I was feeling, I'd fucking lose. I would never get on there. I'd fucking never would have turned up. So I mustered up some whatever I had fucking left internal. And, because when I step on that platform, for me, that platform, that 10 minutes was something that I wanted to refer back to for the rest of my life. I wanted to tell my grandkids about that.
What was your favourite event? Snatch?
Oh, so you got jerk and then you got the snatch. And so snatch was mine because I've got one short arm. So when I was in the rack position, one elbow would not reach my hip. So everyone else both hands could reach down. So I'd be all twisted up. And it was just hard. It was hard shit, like doing that.
How many reps were you doing in 10 minutes?
Man, I was doing my 28 kilos. My best was 110 reps in 10 minutes, which there's heaps of guys better than me out there and all that. But on the day in the competitions that I went to, I fucking won. And so there's always someone better than you. So even though I've got 3 world championships now, there's heaps of people better than me. Maybe not in the snatch if I really wanted to wind it out. Snatch is kind of something that I knew no matter where I went in the world, I would be able to mix it with them. If not beat them or absolutely annihilate them. And that was the early days in kettlebells too. So there was times, man, I'd rock up the competitions and I would go there, not to compete, not to participate. I went there to fucking win. I was like, I'm winning this shit. CT Fletcher, he walked into the weight room. He's like, which one of you motherfuckers are coming in second? Because all you motherfuckers know I'm winning shit. I literally had that attitude. It was more based out of the fact of what was going on at home. I was like, there is no one that's going to tell me that this is not possible. There's nobody who's going to say that I can't do it or whatever it is. I was so internally driven. It wasn't out of arrogance what it is. I just also knew that I'd done the training. I trained my ass off. So back to business, had the place. I blew myself up at my job, which was the day I decided to fucking quit.
Electrocute yourself.
Yeah. Electrocute himself. Should have killed me. Didn't. And so I took that as a sign. Early that day, I took a photo, sent it to my best mate, Brad, who had come to talk at our school when I was 16. He's my best friend today. And I said, mate, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And I told my boss I quit. He cried. I cried. He gave me early release on my apprenticeship, which was phenomenal. And the next day I flew to Sydney and did a 5-day business course with Kerr and Ray. Yeah. So I saw him at a Tony Robbins event. So my friend Brad, who spoke to me when I was 16, getting kicked out of year 10, because they put me in a group saying, you're not meant to go on to year 12. It's not going to benefit you. Okay. And he was the first person I ever heard speak who talked about life in a positive light. No one else. Everyone was like, they're fucking warmed up, trying to influence us about leaving school. I was like, fuck that. Yeah. I ain't going out to that shit. There's got to be something different. I already seen what fucking being miserable and not liking what you do is like. I'm not fucking doing that. Yeah. Why would I sign up to that if I see it's not fucking, if I just listen to it being so bad my whole life? I was like, fuck that. I'd rather fucking live on the street and enjoy it, or whatever. Yeah. So,
what Tony Robbins event was it?
It was, you know how they have those success resources? So, yeah, shout out to Michael.
Like a half day.
Yeah, it was a full day. Richard Branson at the end or something like that. Yeah. Because Brad actually gave me Tony Robbins tapes, Personal Power, 30-day program. Brad gave me those tapes because his dad brought them for him. His dad's a phenomenal guy, Graham. And so I, as an apprentice, put those tapes in my work van, and between jobs, I'd listen to them. And I was doing something that now I know what was, but I was doing what's called shadowing. So if anyone out there who ever wants to talk, if you ever had speaking, lisp and things like that, because I'm not a natural talker, is what you do is you put on a tape of someone you like who speaks, whatever it is, and mimic their voice as they're speaking. Kind of like you're singing to the music, you're talking to the sound. Yeah, okay. That's called shadowing. It's one of the most powerful learning to speak tools you can do. Now I work with kids, I know that. And that was what I did. Everywhere, between events, is I would listen to Tony Robbins tapes and mimic his voice. And that gave me a massive advantage. Do you want me to tell you something that was really cool at the time that really... set things apart.
Yeah. Show and tell.
All right.
It's cool.
All right. So I had an influence in my life come in who I met on the first night of that business course as well, called Jimmy Hutton. Now, he's a phenomenal guy that my mate Brad connected me with. And when I first met him, I was just blown away by him. And I was like, this guy is just incredible. And anyone out there who knows Jimmy Hutton knows he's incredible. And his brother Dan. Now, sadly, Dan passed away the other week of cancer, but phenomenal guy, and his memory will always live on. And these two brothers were just fucking incredible. Now, I couldn't realize why I connected so much with him, but what actually happened, our dads worked together for like 30 years. I really idolized him. And so I was like, I really love what he's doing, where he's spreading all this good news. In my town in Leeton, there needed to be more good news spread, because all there was negativity. Right. And newspaper headlines and all this bullshit. Like, who's championing the community heroes that every day for the last fucking 50 years have been brightening people's days? Yeah. And there's a lady by the name of Minnie Famara, who is an iconic person in Leeton who works at the IGA where I got my first job. Okay. And she was friends with my nan. She had a cockatoo I used to speak to as a kid. And every day I went to the Golden Apple, she would give me Devon. Yeah. I remember these things as kids. And so what I decided is, in my town, is I wanted to be the person that spread the good news. Not the bad news, good news. Because bad news travels fast. Yeah. But I wanted to be the one that spread all the good stuff. And so what I did is I created a page called I Live in Leeton, a Facebook group. And I later found out it was the very first Facebook group used for community purposes in the world.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I created that shit. Yeah, right now, it's got over 11,000 people in it. And at the time...
Are you still in that?
Yeah, I actually sold it. Oh, right. And to the mayor's daughter. And she runs it with her husband and does great stuff in it. Yeah. But that group, what I did is I actually built my own database of the whole town through that group.
Right. Okay.
So, because how that come about is the newspaper ripped me off in my first, I saw at the time, ripped me off. They stuffed up my number in this ad to provide a community boxing class for young boys who didn't have anywhere to go. Right? So I'm trying to do this good thing community. I pay money when I didn't have money to pay to do this and start this initiative. And they stuffed my number up, whether it was me or whether it was them. My number's wrong. So I said, hey, can you run it? And they're like, no, you've got to pay us more money. And I was like, well, can I get a discount? No, you got to pay us more money. I was like, well, you fucked my number up. Yeah. Right? And so anyway, I got off that phone call not happy about my first ever marketing experience. So I said, fuck you guys. If this is how you're going to be, I'm going to create something so powerful, one day you're going to have to pay me. Yeah. And I did. I Live in Leeton page. You don't have money. You just got to have you just got to figure out these little tactics, and they were powerful.
Yeah. Let's look 12 months, because I know you look into the future and you want something and you bring it to the now. What's the next 12 months for you?
Don't know what the next 12 months takes. Let's say the next 3 is we've got another book coming out called Discover the Strength Within, Power of the POWMan series. That's just released today, actually. And, that the main character is Frankie, a young girl who goes off to boarding school. She does karate, but when she goes to boarding school, she doesn't quite fit in, and she gets bullied, and it sort of shows how she's got to find her own inner strength during this period of change. And, that's a skill as well. And, that story is going to help so many people out there, like that, people all around the world. So what's next, man? POWMan book is, we've got phenomenal things happening with that series, not just here, but across the world. So for me, it's finding ways to get out to more schools, more people. And the way we are doing that is through a project at the moment called the Community Hero Project, where I'm working with local business owners who are buying the class set books and getting it out with the class notes that fit the school curriculum out to all the schools as well. Because I want people to understand that they can also be the community hero in their town. Don't just wait for someone else to do it, because we have this attitude that someone else is going to save the day. Be that person. And so I work with phenomenal people, from teachers to business owners to real estate agents to gym owners, all around, who can go into their own school and do the talk about their experiences and share that as well, because I'm only one person. So basically next 3 months, man, is we've got endless school visits, community talks. We've got a new website coming out with really cool features on it, where people can jump on there and be part of the community and also get access to lots of the notes. We've got toothbrushes coming out, soaps, socks coming out. We've teamed up with Starlight Foundation. So on the 13th, we go in and do the first POWMan hospital visit. So going in there and brightening kids' days that are facing fucking real harsh challenges, So as part of the book goes out to the Starlight Foundation too, to help fund the amazing work that they do with kids. And, I guess the message of that is helping these kids overcome whatever they're facing opens up the door to possibilities of what they can achieve. And that's the beautiful thing. And, these kids that go through adversities, challenges, like stuff, anyone out there listening who goes through this sort of stuff, it's all happening, and it makes the breakthrough even better. It makes it makes it even sweeter, and it makes you appreciate it, because you never want to create something, don't appreciate it, and then waste opportunities, whatever it is. And when you taste the shit side of life, it makes the good side even better. Does, man. And so if anything right now, if anyone is going through shit, learn to smile in the shit times and shovel that shit for a smile, because there's going to be a day where you won't have it. And you'll appreciate what you do have. And you'll look back and go, fuck, I'm glad I just kept going. So anyone out there, the greatest advice I can give someone is, the best person you can ever look up to is you in future time. So do what you're going to do now, as if your future self is looking down on you saying, hey, I'm proud of you for making it through. So be accountable to that person, your 10-year self or 20-year self, whatever you're going to do, or 5-year self, and have that internal dialogue, and then start acting now despite where you're at, what you got or don't have, whatever it is, and go, hey, what would my future self be proud of in this moment? If I can make the decisions now based on that, you're going to be on the right path. And realistically, we're in a first world country, right? So a lot of our challenges, someone in a third world country wishes they had our fucking challenges. So there's always someone else out there doing things. There's always people out there who have got it worse. So sometimes understanding that gets you out of your own pity party and dwelling and poor me and all that sort of stuff, because you never want to be the victim in life. You want to become the victor. Overcome it, and sadly we do get a lot of significance from being the victim, poor me, and you can stay there, get addicted to it. You get your significance from fucking whinging, complaining and blaming, but you never want to be fucking known to be the biggest complainer.
Absolutely. Well, because it takes the pressure off having to take the responsibility, right? So being the victim means it's other people's problems, and so poor me says, I got. There's nothing on me. It's on everyone else. And it's toxic. And it becomes toxic because you stop moving, and whatever's still is stationary stinks. It becomes stagnant. So like water, you could say. So you got to keep moving. Got to keep going beyond it, and
And that's kind of the secret to life is get flowing, get going, get moving, get doing something to better yourself, regardless of what it is. Like for me, kettlebell lifting was my vehicle to better myself when there's a lot of times where progress wasn't happening. I could progress every day with kettlebell lifting, and I just focused on that and spent my energy. So everyone out there, you're going to find a vehicle. If you haven't found it yet, it's coming for you. It might be right in front of your face. And you might have to start bloody saying yes to some opportunities and putting yourself out of your comfort zone and all that sort of stuff. And that's the kind of key to life.
What do you want to be remembered by, bro?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think showing kids, but also myself, how to overcome any adversity life throws at me, and how do you turn a negative into a positive, and just being that role model. Because I believe that when we go through life, there's this, it's like I forget what kind of quote it is, but you always have someone that you're bringing up and helping. There's always someone that you're going with like you're tackling life with. There's always someone you aspire to be as well. So also, great people have come into my life. So I'm just passing on a lot of these things for someone else and just passing that on. And I really believe in that. Remembered for is someone that went beyond any challenges that he ever faced and turned all of it into good, and did good stuff with it and helped others do good stuff with. So
before we dive into the last question, where can people find you? Where's the best place for people to find you?
Just on Dave POW Tabain on Instagram and David POW Tabain on Facebook. I'm actually maxed out on that, but they're two
friends.
Friends, because obviously I always roll at 5,000 friends, right? Because my network is my net worth. So I've been rocking 5,000 friends since like the first year of Facebook. So that's where you find me on Instagram, Facebook. Like I got people reach out all the time. So anyone out there, not just me, but anyone, you'll be surprised. I actually had this and I'll share this. When I had that Brad Booth come in and speak to me when I was 16, he said that people that have successful people love to share what they know. I went home and told my dad that day, Dad, this guy Brad Booth, he's got a clothing store. I'm not into clothes, but I'll go work. I want to go work with him because I was working for everyone at that point. I was like, I'll work for him, just learn from him. And Dad, must have had a really bad dad at this time, but he said, turn around and goes, why the fuck would he tell you anything? Successful people don't share their knowledge, which was untrue. And it upset me at the time, but I also knew it wasn't true. And that's when I started to realize, wow, his view of the world is different to what I learned. And so I've got to go with my gut here and pursue this thing with Brad Booth. And what I actually did is the next day I had $50, and that $50 was going to a clothing store. So it was to go towards an excursion because my mum didn't have the money to send me on this excursion. I had $50. I went into that store knowing that if I went in there, I was going to spend the money. But I went in there going, how long can I talk to Brad for? And can I make it that he remembers my name? Sure enough, I spent the $50, but I walked out of there with this bang-ass t-shirt that it was like my favorite t-shirt for years. Spent the money, but Brad knew my name, and I had a decent conversation with him, which I was very proud of because I wasn't very good at conversations because I was also brought up in some way to be seen, not heard. So as a young kid, and so these are all things I've had to work around because it's sort of total bullshit. And so, and they're old shitty sayings. So anyway, that's how I met Brad Booth, who's my best mate today. And so anyone out there, always reach out to the people you're aspiring to talk to and reach out to them more than once because they will appreciate your persistence. And that's the greatest thing. If someone is constantly helping themselves through persistence, anyone will stop and help them out down the track when it becomes the right timing. And that's how I got my first job. Told my mum to pull into Golden Apple every single day, and I kept asking for a job, and they kept saying no. Kept asking someone else, and they kept saying no. And then I connected that my nan was friends with Minnie Famara. So I was like, hey, I'm asking the wrong fucking person. So I walked out to Minnie Famara, who I knew. Hey, Minnie, I need a job. She marched me straight up into the front desk and said, you give this guy a job. So then I started to realize it's not just what you know, it's who you know.
Absolutely. Awesome, man. Last final question. What, you're 18, so you're 18. What's, knowing what you know now, what's the advice you would give to that 18-year-old self? And it doesn't have to be 18, 16, probably the point where maybe you were struggling, that transition through school, getting that mark, getting that red dot. Knowing what you know now, what's advice you would give to that self?
Right now, to my past self, I'd say just keep going. because the tenacity and intensity I had developed back then, I'm only just tapping back into it now. Enthusiasm and the energy you bring is some of the most beneficial things you can have as a young kid. Is Dylan, who's going to be on the podcast, you talk to him, his enthusiasm's through the roof. I just want him to hang around. Man, I don't need it. I was like, you don't need to tell me anything. Just fucking hang around because you're fun to hang around. And in a world where, people are bitter and angry and, not having fun, that lightness and that feel and that energy is actually something really good to have around.
Bro, it has been fun. An hour and a half of pure value and gold. Man, thank you so much for coming on. Again, check out POWMan. That's doing incredible things. Yep. Keep in touch with Dave. We're excited to have Dylan on.
Dylan.
Super amped for that. But oh man, thanks so much again,
mate. Really appreciate what you guys are doing, and keep going and keep bridging that gap. Woo!
We will. Pow!
Pow!